So in this video, we're going to talk about a service in Azure called Network Watcher and the number of tools that we have available to us under the Network Watcher service, one including Connection Monitor. Now to get here, I'm searching in the Azure portal for Network Watcher, and you'll see that there's a service called Network Watcher. When I go into it, I will see usually one Network Watcher already set up for us for each of our regions and subscriptions that we've used in the past. So you can see that I didn't use every region in the world. I've used East US and East US 2, Central, North Europe, West US. And Azure has along the way created these Network Watchers for me. So I can see that for this particular subscription for East US region, there's a Network Watcher available to me. Now the tools for using Network Watcher are actually at this level. You don't go into the Network Watcher itself because there's really nothing there. What we want is at the Network Watcher service level. And on the left, you can see there are a set of monitoring tools and network diagnostic tools. We saw the connection troubleshooter in the section talking about network security groups, where we can test the connection between virtual machines and other things, source being VM, scale set, gateway, or bastion. And we can try to figure out why these Azure services can't connect to something either on the internet or within our Azure subscription. But I'm more interested today in something called Connection Monitor. Now, Connection Monitor is part of the Azure Network Watcher, and it allows you to track network connectivity over time. So unlike the Connection Troubleshooter, which is a one-time test, Connection Monitor gives you ongoing insights into whether a VM or resource is reachable. It can track latency, packet loss, and even alert you if a connection becomes unstable or unreachable. So again, we've reached Connection Monitor by finding Network Watcher and going under monitoring here. And now we want to create a new monitor. So I'm going to click the create button. We're going to give it a name. It's going to be against this subscription and the East US region because I have a VM and a network already there. Now I go to the next tab called Test Groups. Now in this case, maybe I want to test my virtual machine and to see that it can connect to the internet over port 443. So I give it a name and I say add sources. And I'm going to choose the virtual machine that I had created. If you don't have one, you can go ahead and create one. And to the internet over port 443. A VM to be against this subscription and the East US region because I have a VM. Test groups. Now in this case, maybe I want to test groups. Now in this case, maybe I want to test my. So I give it a name and I say add sources. And I'm going to choose the virtual machine that I had created. If you don't have one, you can go ahead and create one. And for the destination, I'm going to go to an external address. And we were testing bing.com. And so we can test that. And we can see what we've selected under external addresses. And say add endpoints. And under test configuration, we can define what we want to test. And so this is, let's call it test 1. And it's chosen as a default HTTP protocol. Now we could choose the TCP protocol to port 80, which is the same thing. And how often do we want to test this? Now 30 seconds seems a bit excessive, especially to a site we don't own like Bing, but maybe every 5 minutes we can run a ping to Bing using port 80. And success threshold. So do we have a point at which we are okay, 90% worked, 50% worked? What percentage would have to have failed in order for us to alert? So let's say that if 10% of these tests fail, I want to be alerted. And we saw that the round trip is under 2 milliseconds in the connection test that we were doing before. But let's say we're fine with up to 25. We don't need to be so fast with Bing.com. All right, now we are going to get charged for this. Obviously, this is a resource and it's going to continually run. If we didn't want to, we can disable this on creation. But let's say add test group. Now it needs to use a log analytics workspace, and I'm just going to pick the default log analytics workspace. Do we want to be notified if this connection monitor discovers any failures? We could set up an action group to either email us or SMS us, notify us in some way that this test didn't work. So I'm not going to create an alert. I'm going to say review and create. And you'll see that it's about 30 cents per month to set this test up. I'm going to say create. So that succeeded. If we go back to Network Watcher, under Connection Monitor, we can see the monitor that we created. Now, so far, this monitor is failing. If you'll remember, the test that we made is testing port 80, which we know is going to fail. If we update this to 443 and we update update the test group and update the deployment, then when we go back to Network Watcher, we can refresh this. What we'd expect to happen is that even though the first one failed, that the next one should succeed. So we'll wait. I believe we set it to every 5 minutes. So we'll wait for 5 minutes and then the connection monitor will start to succeed. So in this way, we can have an ongoing check of the connectivity between two sources in Microsoft Azure. Now, moving on to diagnostic logs, we already know that most resources within Microsoft Azure have a diagnostic system that collects metrics and data and feeds it into a log analytics workspace, and you can use something like Azure Monitor to see reports and to collect that stuff centrally. So right now I can see diagnostic logs that list me all of my network interfaces and network security groups on my entire account. And I can see that diagnostics is not currently turned on. So let's say we're going to look at these one each. Let's look at a network interface card. If I click on diagnostics, then you can see there's only one thing that it collects, which are metrics. And metrics, I guess, are bits and bytes that are coming in over the network card. So if I wanted to collect that, I can say, give it a name, diag1, and send it to a log analytics workspace. And I'm going to put it in the Northern Europe workspace. I have a number of them, and hit save. So now this network interface card is going to be collecting metrics. This is obviously not a lot of information. We're going to see that when we go into Azure Monitor, what it collects. We could also additionally store this in a storage account, stream it to an event hub, or have some other third-party solution that will take this data and do something with it, right? These are checkboxes, and it's an either or and situation. If I go back to Network Watcher, diagnostic logs, close that, I guess. Oops. Go back to Network Watcher, go down to diagnostic logs, and now we can see the network interface card has the logs enabled. Now let's look at the network security group. Now, network security group gives off two things. One is called an event, and the other is the rule counter. So let's add that. So I'm going to collect everything, all logs, send it to a log analytics workspace. I'm going to put this in Northern Europe, and this is going to be called diag2. And again, I can collect that. Now these are different bits of data. This is relating to the network security group. The other one was relating to the network interface card. And so the data is going to be different, the format's going to be different, etc. All right, so we can see here, now we have enabled network interface card and network security group. Now these information, again, if it's stored in a security account, you could pull that into Power BI and you could actually run your own reports, right? It's data like any other data. This is not retroactive, and so you do have to then start running traffic between these two, into these things, whether there's a network interface card or a network security group, in order to see that. And then there is a delay. So let's go into Azure Monitor real quick, this dial, this gauge on my menu, or I can go into all services, analytics, is it? Oh, Monitor. Monitor is its own service, and I can go into Azure Monitor. Now, Azure Monitor is a central dashboard for all Azure services, or almost all Azure services, and we can see that we're dealing with virtual machines, storage accounts, containers, SQL in preview, Cosmos DB, Key Vaults. We're concerned, obviously, with networks. Now, the problem, of course, is there is a lag. Okay, so going into Monitor, even if I was to ping the public IP address, again, attempt to load the web server up over the public internet, which we know is denied because we didn't yet add a rule to allow that traffic through. But we would expect that the NSG for this front end server would deny the traffic, and we'll be able to see that in our Azure Monitor here. But there is a lag, and so having done this in real time, I am not expecting there to be a report that shows me that it was denied. In the networks insights, we can see our network interface cards, network security groups. The IPs are in here, and as well as the virtual networks. So I'm going to click on network security groups, and I can see that there are two of them. And right now, it's not able to tell me about the resource health. So I can click into it. That's not useful right now. So again, this is not going to be useful to me just right now, but I could set up an alert when events happen within this group. Another way to do this is to go directly to the logs. So we have the logs tab here. We do have to choose a scope. I'm going to choose the resource group as the scope. Unfortunately, it doesn't like it when you choose things with different resource types. So I'm actually going to choose both of the network security groups, 1 and 2, as the scopes. Okay. I'm going to close this and open the left menu here. And so we can see that we're dealing with network security groups. And there's going to be some example queries that will going to show you, like this is NSG flow log search. And I can double click that. And this is going to show me a query that I could run against the data if there was yet data. This language is called KQL, or Custo Query Language. It's its own unique thing. So it may not look exactly like anything you've seen before, but if you're going to be spending a lot of time in diagnostics and Azure Monitor, you're going to want to learn KQL. And so this is even telling me that as far as it knows, the table doesn't exist for this search. But you can see the query, and it has various complexities in terms of being able to search for data. So hopefully that gives you a little overview of how resources in Azure can collect data in log analytics, and you can either use the existing tools within the monitor space to view that output, or write your own queries or use some of those pre-built queries to do that as well.